The Next Level is a group of theater geeks playing Dungeons and Dragons. Here is your Dungeon Master, Rob Card.
Hello and welcome to The Next Level. This is a recap for Session 7, which we've titled Family Matters. The session begins with a bit of downtime. The characters are back in the city, back in a safe place, and are taking some time to explore their various relationships and take in a bit of the city. Jacob goes down to the lower merchants district to free up his cart, which had been impounded. Also buys some time for the cart for the future and manages to get a valet who he's nicknamed Colonel, who will keep an eye on it while he's not there. Mint heads over to the Napping Gnome to try and get some new accommodations now that they have their own money and sort of want to stay in their own place. Meets the proprietor, a gnome named Twill. Has some breakfast, overhears some conversation about the buzz in the city, the elections, the various businesses that are blooming with all of the new people in the city as well. And then asks for a room for herself and Tor. Leon talks to their friend Rendell about the copper coins that they'd found. Rendell mentions some people he knows at the library, a dwarf and a halfling that Leon could speak to. However, when Leon leaves and sort of gets a little bit away from the minstrel's muse, they realize that they've lost their bag of holding. So they rush back and look around but can't find anything. So they go report it as stolen to the constabulary of the city watch. And with their rather keen intellect have a very good description of the people who were around them when they think it was taken. Excuse me. And then they go back to the library and do some of the research that they'd been planning on doing on the Shadow Forest, as well as some of the laws in Silver Lake. Talon reconnects with his contact Mordai in the Cerebrin Syndicate, in a shadowy tavern filled with smoke and darkness. He finds his contact sort of at a corner table. Learns that his friend Morgan is suspected of stealing something from the syndicate and says he'll look into that, but also goes to do a little research of his own at a quirky little place in Lakeside called Argo's Odds and Sods, which has a few books about the Archmage. Gildy takes Alphonse to see Morgan, but is met by Brato, who is Morgan's sort of companion and cohort. And finds out that Morgan is missing, has been gone for about 3 days. They'd gone off to try and steal the big score, and this would be something that would get them and Brato out of the city and out of sort of the thieving life forever. But they haven't been seen since. Brato's a little bit worried, and Gildy realizes, remembers from coming in that she saw somebody watching this place, so is starting to get a little bit worried herself. They leave there, and Gildy takes Alphonse to reconnect with Kaya, their daughter. They have a nice little brunch, and then Gildy leaves Alphonse there to go in search of Morgan. Jacob has lunch with his sister Laurie, and speaks with her alone for a little bit, tells her about the memory problems he's been having. He only really recalls about the last year of his life. So she fills him in a little bit on what he was like as a kid, and his imaginary friend Meridu, who he has recalled. Laurie's a little bit miffed that Jacob recalls more about his imaginary friend than he has about her. She tells him that she's been off in the east, met her new very close companion Yumi, freeing her from a troubling situation, and Yumi has sort of vowed to protect her and stay with her for however long it takes to pay off that debt. And then the three of them have a nice lunch together and start to get to know each other. Dora looks at a little bit of sort of the help wanted signs in the city, see what is interesting that he could possibly do next. Leon speaks to Coromandius, the owner of the House of Wands, to potentially find out if there's somebody they know that could help Leon find their bag of holding. Coromandius knows of a bounty hunter, but it'd probably be very pricey to hire them. Leon goes back to the Minstrel's Muse and then speaks to Rendell about any contacts they might have. Rendell gets a little sort of quiet at first. He doesn't particularly respond well to sort of personal inquiries, but after Leon explains what this is for, Rendell is happy to help and says he'll talk to some of his non-legal contacts in the city to see if they can help them. Talon goes to visit Morgan and also talks with Brato. Hears about the fact that they're being watched and what's happened with Morgan. Talon then finds the spy who's keeping an eye on the place and has a chat with them. The spy tells him that he's been sent to watch this place for Morgan if they show up. Tells him about sort of the big theft that's happened. The spy is working for someone named Dax Varian. As well, sort of a group with them. And in naming the group, Talon also recognizes but doesn't quite know where they've heard it from, a name of someone they pretty much only recall as dangerous, and the name is Kavash. Talon and Gildy then meet up, exchange info, find out sort of what the other knows, and start to try and make a plan for how to find Morgan before the Syndicate does. They have some theories as to possible places he might be, maybe inside the city, maybe at a gambling establishment. So they're going to start there and see what they can find. And finally, Leon returns from some more research at the library to find a constable waiting with information, as well as Rendell. The constable says they've identified some possible suspects from the very acute descriptions that Leon had given. One is named Morgan and is a halfling. The other is a half-elf named Sonora, who's a known thief sort of the inner city. Rendell, after the constable leaves, lets Leon know of a contact they've made called Misty, who can help find the bag of holding, but Rendell seems a little cautious about them, tells Leon not to trust them with anything more than that. They're an interesting person. Also that they are a master of disguise. Rendell doesn't know how they'll appear, but they'll probably come to Leon that night. So hopefully Leon can get the bag of holding and everything in it back, but we'll find out next time on the next level. Thank you. Bye-bye.